All right, let's dive into a really fascinating Supreme Court case from 1886. Now, this one sounds less like a legal dispute and more like a riddle, a real head-scratcher. It's a story about phantom governments, big railroad dreams, and a huge question about what a law even is. This is going to be good.
So here's the big question that this whole thing boils down to. Imagine a government gets set up. It starts signing contracts, it issues hundreds of thousands of dollars in bonds, but then a court steps in and says, whoa, wait a minute, that government never legally existed. So is the debt real? That's the puzzle at the heart of Norton versus Shelby County. To really get how this all happened, we've got to rewind the clock. We're going back to the time right after the Civil War. It's a period of massive change, huge ambition, and down in Tennessee, Shelby County had a vision for the future. And that vision ran on steel rails. They wanted a brand new railroad.
What's so interesting is that at the very beginning, this whole plan was totally normal, completely above board. It's February 1867, and the state legislature gives the county's government the green light. The plan was simple, really. The county would buy $300,000 worth of stock in the railroad, and to pay for it, they'd just issue county bonds. Classic 19th century infrastructure project. So far, so good, right?
Well, just as everything was getting rolling, the Tennessee legislature threw a massive curveball, and I mean a huge one. They didn't just tweak the county government, they completely ripped it out and replaced the very group that was supposed to issue these bonds. And this right here is where our story gets really, really weird.
Okay, so hang with me here because the timeline gets a little nuts. In February, the old county court gets the power. But just 1 month later, a new law gets rid of them entirely and creates this new Board of Commissioners. For the next couple of years, this new board is running the show. They're the ones who actually buy the stock and issue the bonds. But here's the kicker. In 1871, the Tennessee Supreme Court looks at the law that created this new board and says, nope, this is unconstitutional, it's void.
And that's the absolute core of the problem. The very people who signed the checks, so to speak, were part of a government that legally was a complete fiction, a ghost. You can just imagine the legal fireworks that were about to go off, all trying to figure out if those checks were worth the paper they were printed on.
So, of course, someone's gonna sue. A guy named Norton, who owned some of these bonds, took Shelby County to court to get his money. The county's response? They said the bonds were totally worthless because they were created by an illegal government. And that forced the courts to step in and try to untangle this bizarre mess.
Now, to get the arguments here, we need to know two little bits of legalese. First, you have an officer de jure. That's Latin for by law. This is the real deal, someone legally holding a legally created job. Then you have an officer de facto, or in fact. This is someone who isn't technically legit, but they're acting like they are. And usually, to keep society from falling apart, the law says their actions are still valid. And that de facto argument, that was Norton's entire case.
So you've got this incredible clash in the courtroom. Norton is arguing, look, these commissioners were de facto officers. They acted like the government, people relied on them, you have to honor the bonds to protect the public. He even pointed out that the county paid interest on them for a while. But Shelby County's defense was just devastatingly simple. They basically said, how can you be a de facto officer of an office that doesn't exist? You can't be the manager of a phantom company. Game, set, match. Or was it?
Well, this whole mess eventually climbed all the way up the legal ladder, landing right in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. They were the ones who had to make the final call in this battle between what seemed real and what the law said was real.
So this is it. It all comes down to this single question. Were these guys de facto officers? Were their actions, including issuing all that debt, actually legally binding? What do you think?
The court's answer was a sledgehammer. It was clear, it was simple, it was absolute. A big, fat, definitive no. The commissioners were not de facto officers, and those bonds, they were completely worthless. And the logic the court used here is, it's just so powerful. They explained that the whole idea of a de facto officer is to create stability when you have a real, legally created office that just happens to have the wrong person sitting in the chair. But in this case, because the law creating the board was unconstitutional, the office of commissioner itself never legally existed. You can't be the driver, de jure or de facto, of a car that was never built. There's simply no office to fill.
And because of that ruling, the court laid down one of the most important and lasting ideas in all of American law. It's a principle that goes way beyond some old railroad bonds in Tennessee. This right here is the heart of it. Just listen to these words. The court is saying that an unconstitutional act isn't just a bad law or a mistake. It's a legal nothing, a zero. It has no power to do anything, it can't give you rights, it can't make you do anything, and it certainly can't create a government office. It's like it was never even written down.
There's a great Latin phrase for this, void ab initio. It means void from the beginning, and that's the key. It's not that the law was good for a few years and then got struck down. It's that, in the eyes of the Constitution, it was never a law at all. From the very second it was passed, poof, it was gone.
So why does this all matter today? Well, because this case drew some incredibly important lines in the sand for our legal system. First, it makes it crystal clear. You can't have a de facto officer without a de jure office. Second, it hammers home that a law that violates the Constitution isn't just a bad law, it's no law at all. And most importantly, it's a powerful statement that the Constitution is king, and any government act that goes against it is simply nothing. And that really leaves us with one final thing to chew on. This case is a perfect example of the power of judicial review. When a court can look at a law passed by elected officials and say, this is a legal nullity, effectively erasing it from history, well, that tells you something really profound about where the ultimate power in our system comes from. It's not from the lawmakers themselves, but from the Constitution they've all sworn to protect.